Hello, it's Moira, and I wanted to talk today. And I wanted to do something that, in a way, seems a little bit less common. I wanted only to raise questions. I didn't want to answer questions. I didn't want to provide any solutions at all. I just wanted to open a space for all of us to think about questions, because the questions are, in a sense, what creates space. You think something's tight, like a knot, and when you have a tight knot and you loosen it, then you get some space in between, and then you can undo it. I mean a literal physical knot. But I believe it's true as well for emotional knots, intellectual knots, fear knots, any other kind of knot that we have. So I was thinking today that in my family there was a saint. There is. I mean, he's a saint, so I guess he'll always be a saint. And if you go up to the far north of Scotland, to the island of Orkney, and into the city of Kirkwall, it's hardly a city, but it has a cathedral. And you go into the cathedral, there is a stained glass window to St. Cormac. And he has recently, the window is quite recent, so he has quite recently been honoured. And he was travelling around 1100s AD, and he knew St. Mungo, and he travelled from Ireland with St. Mungo, and apparently he was a hermit, and he went over to Orkney for peace, and he must have reached the locals because they made him a saint, and he remains on the list as a saint even after the great culling of the saints, which does exist. And I was thinking how long it took Christianity to spread. Years and years and years, because it was by people walking, people living Christian lives. It took hundreds of years before it was established, before it almost became corrupt when we think about the Reformation. And why am I thinking about Christianity? Why am I talking about that? Because I'm thinking about human design. And I'm thinking about how it has travelled through the world. And it has come at an age where it's very quick for it to travel, because we have social media and we have a vast array of ways for people to find out about it. And what I see is that for some people, they understand that it transcends anything that came before. It is more than the sum of the parts of all the things that made it, which in a sense is what great mind changes, or whatever you want to call them, thought beliefs do. They change us. And I was wondering if we are just changed because it's in the world, because it's out there, it's kind of vibrating in the world. And even if we approach it as seven-centered beings and treat it like another form of astrology, whether the truth that is inherent in it still is going out into the world. I don't know. I don't have an answer for it. But I do have a sense inside me at the moment that we have less than 2 years now before 2027. And for a long time, I have spoken about us being in the age of transformation, the age of healing, where the body has taken center stage, or is in the process of taking center stage. And my work has been in the body taking center stage. And why the body? Because when we're in our bodies, we're grounded, we're relaxed. So there is human design, there is all the books and things and all the healing arts that have arisen in the last 20 years around healing and coming into the body. And a lot of them are sort of divided into two. Some go back and solve the problem, and some help us live with the problem as it is. And I have been feeling that the time of going back and fixing things or feeling that was the way we were going to approach it is kind of over. What do you think? This is not me saying this. This is me opening a discussion. So it seems to me with human design that when we spoke about deconditioning and when Ra spoke about it, it was part of the way of looking back, and it was speaking to the not self. And I just wonder if it's time to live as a 9-centered being, that maybe enough human design has reached a frequency enough that we don't necessarily need to speak to it as if we're speaking to the not self. That actually the time now is to speak to the self, is to gather memories of when we did get it right, as opposed to the ones that we didn't. You know, the whole healing part, I start to tie it all in together, the way we are programmed to think of the negative. What about if we programmed ourselves to think of the positive? What about if we spent the next 2 years moving forward, living as 9-centered beings, which is what we are? And the pain is living as a 7-centered being when we are 9-centered beings. So what if we turned this all slightly upside down on its head? And we stopped doing it the way we have been doing it, and we did it a new way. We still get what we want. We still decondition. We still follow strategy and authority. But we recognize that it's time to live as 9-centered beings. And to have that as the thing that draws us forward. To me, there is something hugely positive that wants to pull me into life to live as a 9-centered being. It feels in my body like health. It feels like everything is lining up, and I'm going to take the steps through my strategy and authority that lead me into living this way. Whereas for me, there is something slightly heavy about deconditioning, especially if I think I've only got 2 years left. Because Ra did say, after 2027, he more or less said the age of transformation will be over. It will be very difficult to decondition. However, when he said that, I'm not 100% sure he realized how far human design would be able to go in a short space of time. I am opening the floor. I hope to hear from you. Everybody's view at this point is so needed because there are no answers, there are only questions. And whether we want to try this. I do. I can feel in my body a kind of joy at the thought that I am a 9-centered being, and that is the way that I'm going to live. It feels as if it is such a beautiful step of trust. This is who I am. This is what I am. Thank you for being with me today. Thank you so much. Obviously, please subscribe. You can find me in Gates of the Moon in Facebook and on Substack. And yeah, please share your view with me. Don't feel that it has to be fully formed. Let it be an exploration of ideas, of tentative seeds of ideas that we can all water together. Much love.